By now, you've all heard of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, the latest book published by Mama Jumbo Shrimp. It's more than just another wine book. The fully updated second edition was inspired by students of the Vinitaly International Academy and painstakingly reviewed and revised by an expert panel of certified Italian wine ambassadors from across the globe. The book also includes an edition by Professore Attilio Scienza, Italy's leading vine geneticist. The benchmark producers feature is a particularly important aspect of this revised edition. The selection makes it easier for our readers to get their hands on a bottle of wine that truly represents a particular grape or region. To pick up a copy, just head to Amazon.com or visit us at MamaJumboShrimp.com.
Welcome to today's episode, part of another new mini-series on Voices about the Vinitaly International Academy Italian wine ambassadors who contributed to the new edition of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0. This new Mama Jumbo Shrimp publication was released in January 2023 and it provides a foundation for the Vinitaly International Academy Italian Wine Ambassadors course. Listen in as Cynthia chats with the personalities who made this revised edition possible. And remember, you can also tune in each Saturday afternoon to hear narrated installments of this new book, or head to Amazon.com to pick up your copy today.
Hello and welcome to Voices. This is Cynthia Chaplin, and today I'm very happy to welcome Andrea Eby to Voices. Andrea is a fellow Vinitaly International Italian Wine Ambassador and the Italian Programs Director at the Wine Scholar Guild. She's a Stage 2 Master of Wine student with over a decade of experience in the wine trade as a buyer, in retail, and as a drinks educator at one of Canada's top wine stores. And Andrea now runs wine education classes in Winnipeg, and she's worked as an assessor at WSET's Educator Training Programme. And she's a Sommelier Instructor with the Canadian Association of Professional Sommeliers. And in 2020, she founded Vinsanity Consulting and Vinsanity School of Wine in Winnipeg. So she's joining me today to chat about all things Vinitaly Marathon, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cynthia. So great to be here.
I'm so glad to have you on. It's lovely to have, a friend and a colleague on the show. Makes a change, and we can be a little bit more relaxed and a little more personal than maybe I would be otherwise. So very grateful for your time.
Well, thank you.
You've been such an active member of the Vinitaly International Academy community for so many years, and as an Italian wine ambassador, and most recently you contributed to the new edition of Italian Wine Unplugged 2.0, where you rewrote some of the grape descriptions for the must-know grapes. Aside from the fact that I nagged you into doing it, we are very happy to have your contribution. And I just wonder, what is it about VIA that keeps you so involved?
Oh boy, there's so many things that I love about VIA, but I think if I had to prioritize number one, it's really just that sense of community that VIA has managed to somehow foster and create. And it's just, the connections I've made with people through VIA that have become, like yourself, sort of lifelong friends, and colleagues that have turned into friends because of this. And I always feel like wherever you go to a wine event anywhere in the world, doesn't matter where you are, somehow you run into somebody who is also a Italian wine ambassador, and you just have that instant connection. And it's opened a lot of doors in my career, and I hope I've also open some doors for people through those connections as well.
Absolutely. I'm sure you have. I feel the same about it. It's such a good mentoring and networking community. And it is a very warm and welcoming community. And we, as you said, we've all made friends that are, friends for life, not just friends for, for one sort of period of time taking an exam. And I think that's pretty special. So
exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let me ask you, what do you think of the new book? As a study tool, as a teaching tool? I know you've got it in your hand now because we personally sent it to you.
As soon as it came on, I don't know, Amazon or whatever, and I ordered a copy, right away. And then I got that really lovely note from Stevie saying, hey, we'd love to send you a copy. So I'm super excited because that means that I can write all over one of them and have sticky notes all over it and, have my little reference cards in here. And then I can keep one, that looks nice as well. So I'm definitely using it every day in my role as the lead educator for the Italian programs at the Wine Scholar Guild. You're always writing new educational material, creating new content for students. And so this is a great reference for me to have at my fingertips and, just have all that. We know in Italy, one of the blessings and the curses is for students is the grapes, right? Because it's amazing that there's so many autochthonous grapes. But when you're trying to cram all that information into your head, that can be a challenge. And so to have all of those grape varieties and their descriptions and things updated in one central place is fantastic.
I'm really glad to hear you say that. I just want to ask you what you think about the benchmark producers. This was a new thing for this new edition. We wanted to add some benchmark producers for our students and people who love Italian wine but don't live in Italy, so they could find some wines that are pretty readily available around the world and, might not be the absolute best, might not be our favorite ones in Italy, but wines that we know are excellent quality and that people can get outside of Italy. Did that seem like a good idea to you? Is it useful for you when you're talking to, students, clients in Canada?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's, as you say, it's really difficult when you start to attempt to put a list like that together because there are so many great producers out there. But I think it's really nice that you've really carefully kind of curated this list that is not only sort of showing usually great typicity for the grape variety or the appellation that you're talking about, but it's also, kind of more like commercially available in a lot of places as well. Because I think it's, as a student, it can be frustrating when there's all these, great producers that are listed and recommended, but then you can't find the wines anywhere outside of Italy. So it's really nice to have those kind of recommendations as a starting point for your kind of exploration into the different grape varieties and appellations. Yeah, I think it's a great addition to the book.
I know you're going to be coming here very soon, I'm happy to say, for 5-star wines and Wine Without Walls as a judge from March 28th and 29th for the wine selection that's held in our offices here in Verona in advance of Vinitaly. So again, all part of our community that we've grown through our events. And I wonder why you keep coming back for 5-star wines, because you're a repeat offender judge. Why is 5-star wine so special to you?
Yeah, well, you know what? So many reasons, but I think I really do kind of really appreciate the way that the judging has kind of been organized at 5-star with, you kind of have your little pod of people that you're with, and you very quickly start to kind of, just develop that sort of rapport with one another and kind of pick up on each other's sort of tasting styles and, the conversations that you have with those people around the table. And often you have a winemaker in your group. And that's such a great perspective to have, I think, that you just don't get that often in other competitions that I judge at. And so, yeah, I think it's really that kind of roundtable discussion that happens that really I find intellectually stimulating. And then also just the chance for myself, with the job I have, it's really important to kind of try and stay current on all those grape varieties and appellations that are out there. And, where else can you go where you can taste such a wide selection of grape varieties and styles and appellations? So, yeah, I think it's, on the personal level, it's very fulfilling, and also on the professional side of things as well.
Yeah, it's interesting, that point that you made. I think we don't talk about this as much as we should, but we do have Italian enologists from the Acenology Association, and one Italian enologist sits on every panel. So you do get that perspective of somebody who really lives and breathes the vines every day. I know I have to break up a lot of arguments that they have. That's kind of my job. I like to break up the arguments that the enologists get into with our international crew of
Yeah.
judges. Very different perspectives, but it does develop conversation, and I think it keeps it very fresh. And that's a very good point. We don't talk about that very much, and I think it is special. I don't judge at any other competitions where we have enologists there, so maybe we ought to be talking about that more.
Yeah, it is something that I really do appreciate, having that perspective on the panel. And because sometimes there are things maybe going on with a wine and, your first thought is, oh, there's something, maybe I'm not quite sure about what's happening in this wine. And then you have that professional there that can say, oh, no, this is just, ABC. And it lets you assess the wine in a different way than maybe you would have done so without that other kind of perspective into it. So, and as you say, great conversation that sometimes gets a little heated, but those are fantastic as well. So
Exactly, and I think for the producers, it's very valuable to have that element of knowing that Italian enologists were part of the judging process. It's not just a bunch of international people, no matter how experienced they are, might not know as much about their Italian wines as they would like. So having that enologist there does kind of balance that out, which is kind of nice. So
yeah, absolutely.
well, your background is, huge as a wine educator, over 10 years long. And I think this is part of where we got to be good friends. I just want to ask you how you feel wine education is heading right now. Do you think it's going in the right direction? What do you think we should be doing to attract new students and keep them engaged with learning about wine?
Oh, that's a big question. It was the wine education was one of the theory questions I chose to answer on my paper 5 examination last summer for the MW. So I've thought quite a bit about this. Obviously, we're both working in the field every day, and I think there's great potential for wine education. Obviously, we have some challenges in the kind of the global sort of, marketplace in terms of, there's a lot of pressure I'm just speaking from like the Canadian perspective, these new health guidelines and things that are really sort of making people question, should alcohol be part of their lives? And so I think we have to really be aware that that is out there and work hard to give people, the sense that wine can be a wonderful part of a culture and your sort of your life. And so I think we have to be aware of that as something that could impact the number of people that are coming to look for courses. And I think also just the general sort of generational shift in wine drinkers is something as an industry, wine education industry, we need to be aware of that. A lot of the people that have historically been taking classes and really spending money on wine are kind of aging out of the category in some ways.
Sad but true.
Yeah, exactly. I'm edging up on that, but I won't give up wine. It doesn't matter. But you know what I mean? It's like, how do we attract new consumers into just the category of wine, right? Because we need them as consumers first before they're going to want to be students of wine.
That's so true.
I think, just making sure that we're always trying to make our educational opportunities as inclusive as we can, and really making sure that we're not putting any barriers to entry in terms of, sometimes wine is seen as a very sort of exclusive product. And I always try to work really hard to, help people understand that that's not the case. It's, in many cases, in all cases, I think it was, something that was a peasant's beverage initially, right? And yeah, and so it's like, it's accessible to everybody and we don't want to be putting any barriers up to it. So when I'm teaching, I'm always trying to make people feel as comfortable as I can with kind of, the skill set that they're coming with and giving them the confidence to build upon that. So yeah, I think it's just enabling people to believe in themselves, because sometimes you look at people who are masters of wine or master sommeliers and you think, oh my gosh, like how do these people do those things? And, you have to step back and say, nobody started there. Everybody worked really hard to get there and everybody has the potential to get there if they want to, but not everybody has to, right? It's like not everybody has to end up as a master of wine or master sommelier. There's lots of directions that education can take you, along that way.
Are you enjoying this podcast? Don't forget to visit our YouTube channel, Mama Jumbo Shrimp, for fascinating videos covering Stevie Kim and her travels across Italy and beyond, meeting winemakers, eating local foods, and taking in the scenery. Now, back to the show.
That's a really good point. Not everybody has to get to, sort of these pinnacles of knowledge. A lot of times getting as far as you want to go and then taking your career in another direction is important. I think, when we're advising, young people coming into the wine industry, I know myself when I started off, I didn't ever really think that wine could be a career, and all the careers that are part of the industry, and of course growing all the time with social media and different things like that. You're absolutely right. There's a lot more that one can do in the world of wine beyond carrying on studying to sort of dizzying heights of knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that people that have developed kind of skills through wine education can be really useful parts of a team in a lot of different fields. So I certainly, when I teach classes, you see people who are very young, kind of just thinking they might want to know a little bit more about wine. You have people that are kind of, midlife, and they're contemplating some sort of career change and thinking that wine could be that. And there's people that are ready to retire and they want to retire to working in a tasting room somewhere, right? And so there's just to me, it's just this journey that can start from very young and take you, into kind of old age and keep you motivated and excited about learning. So yeah, I think it is a really great field to study.
Well, as you know, I completely agree. It's nice because your own career reflects a lot of that. You've been a buyer and an importer of Italian wine for many years and importing into Canada. You've done a lot of different things as you've gone through your own wine journey. And I'm just wondering what you think about how the market is today in Canada for Italian wine, what changes you've seen over the past couple of years in light of COVID and economic difficulties that everyone's facing. Do you think Italian wines are going to grow in market share in Canada?
Italian wines are quite, at least I won't say across Canada, but in particularly in the province I'm in, and I do know in some of the other provinces as well, Italian wines are quite almost uniquely positioned because I think we have, in a lot of instances, some very large kind of cultural ties to Italy. A lot of immigrants that have moved from Italy at some point. And so we have quite thriving Italian communities in a lot of our cities. And I think that really helps that, marketing to Canada. A lot of Canadians as well, when you say, where would you like to go for vacation? Italy is definitely near the top of the list. So we have this real kind of love of the Italian culture as well. And I think all of those things bode well for Italian wine in Canada. I would say since COVID, I definitely have noticed some trends that I think I'm starting to see a little bit of reversal of some of the trends, but definitely during COVID and kind of, the year and a half after, I definitely noticed more of a focus on real sort of value products. So the overall spend was probably less, and maybe people were, they were drinking more sort of like $15 to $20 versus, $20 to $25, $30 kind of bottles. And, but I think I've slowly started to see now people, and maybe it's partially in reflection to some of this kind of pressure from government in terms of alcohol, right? People kind of choosing to maybe drink a little bit less, but drink a little bit better quality, right? And so you see some of the stores kind of dipping their toe back into slightly higher priced wines and kind of looking to order some sort of more premium products again. And Italy is definitely kind of at the top of that list for a lot of people in terms of like what they're willing to kind of do a little bit of a splurge on.
That's really good to know. I'm glad to hear that. I'm always happy when I see Italian wines outside of Italy, have their profile raised and their value kind of exalted. So it's good to know that people are looking to Italian wine as more of a luxury product, willing to, as you say, spend more, drink less, and drink better. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, I think there's still, obviously, we look to Italy particularly here, to fill that sort of value as well. So I think there's both ends of the spectrum being addressed, which is probably what a lot of Italian wineries want to hear, because we do love our sort of value Pinot Grigio, and there's a few bottles of Prosecco sold in Canada. So but I do see even some people asking me, can you find me an Asolo Prosecco? Can you find me a Cartizze Prosecco for the store? So I think that's a great, sort of indication that people aren't just seeing that these kind of traditional value-oriented products, they're noticing that there are some kind of premium options within those categories.
That's excellent. And that points to education too, better marketing, better communication, and people are getting the message. So that's exciting. That's actually really hopeful news. So before I let you go, as you know, personally, I am so thrilled for you and very excited about your recent success in your efforts to complete your Master of Wine studies. I was with you when you got the call, when you had passed your most recent paper, so that was really big news. Let's talk about this a little bit. I know so many people, myself included, are always curious about the Master of Wine program, shrouded in mist. Tell everybody who's listening, what is this very particular wine adventure like? How long have you been studying? When do you hope you're going to be done?
Yeah.
What are your words of wisdom for people who are considering embarking on this, adventure?
Be aware.
Run.
Know what you're getting into. No, I mean, I'm not alone in the fact that I've probably had a fairly unique journey because of COVID, kind of, as a lot of people in their lives, things maybe didn't go exactly as they had sort of envisioned them happening because of COVID. And so I had entered the program, I guess, 2019, kind of that fall of 2019, and was kind of thinking, okay, what is this? What have I done? Right? How do I do this? It was kind of this thing where originally I entered the program because, being based in Winnipeg, it's a very isolated, it's isolated in terms of wine, but it's isolated just even geographically, right? And so I was feeling like I had done my diploma a few years before, and I wanted to keep developing professionally, and I wanted to keep kind of networking with people. And I felt like, okay, this program allows me to kind of do a lot of self-study, but still be kind of part of a group of wine professionals and people. And so I thought, okay, I'm gonna enter the program, and so applied and was accepted. And so really, I'll tell you, when you first get into the program, they say, congratulations, you're in. And then you think, okay, now what? Like, what do I study? How do I even begin to kind of tackle this? And so you have your stage one, they call it stage one seminar week, where it's the first time where a lot of the kind of, rigor is introduced to you. You work with Masters of Wine that week. You have all your other students in stage one. And so my stage one happened kind of the last part of January 2020. And then a few weeks later, the world basically shut down, right? And so I felt like, okay, I maybe kind of have an idea what I should be doing here. But then, just getting access to wines and everything, it was just really difficult. And so there was an opportunity to write my stage one exam that year, which I did and passed. So with that, you're doing kind of like 1 day of exams with tasting component and theory papers. And I moved into stage two, and I kind of thought naively that the world would be back to normal by the time.
Didn't we all, honestly?
And so, that next year kind of was comprised of them mailing, my little samples and doing everything online. And it was just really, I just felt like it wasn't what I needed to prepare for that exam. So in 2021, I deferred writing the stage 2 exams because I wasn't even sure if I'd be able to travel when the exams were scheduled. So I, last year kind of resumed, I would say, semi-normal kind of, studies, and I was able to go write the stage 2 exam for the first time in Napa in July. And was really thrilled to pass. The exam itself is composed of 4 days, 3 of which you do tasting papers all morning. And then in the afternoons, you do essays essentially on topics that they have chosen for you that are a surprise that day. And so it was a huge relief to pass the theory part. So now I've been really diligently trying to taste as much as I can, which again is a challenge being in Winnipeg. So I'm spending a lot of April in London trying to kind of do some judging, as well as, judging at 5-star, just being able to be more exposed and tasting kind of a wider range of wines again. So yeah, it does involve some travel, I think, especially if you're coming from a more sort of remote area, or, a more of a minor wine market, you do need to kind of factor in some travel into your budget for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think, the travel and the wine is probably the most costly side of it, rather than the actual cost of the course over the couple of years that it takes to finish it.
Yeah, you can budget for the, the tuition and that sort of thing, but, the travel and how much you're going to end up spending on the wines is really something that at the beginning I didn't maybe understand how much I was going to spend on it, which my family has, been very kind to forego a few things so that I could try and, kind of complete this. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed and working very hard to pass the practical portion, which I'll write again in June this year. And then after that, if I'm successful at that, then the last stage is to do your research project. And I'm soliciting anybody for ideas what what I should study for my research project, because I would like it to be something that revolves around Italian wine, because that definitely is my passion. And I have just so many ideas in my head about what I might do. But really trying to kind of nail down a topic that I want to put that kind of year's worth of research and energy into.
Well, I think having said that you're soliciting ideas on the Italian Wine podcast, you might find that you are flooded with all kinds of things. But
that's good. I'm happy if people do send some ideas. That'd be great.
Well, I can't thank you enough for coming on today. And I know for sure that you will always be a good friend to the VIA community. And we're looking forward to having another VIA Italian wine ambassador who becomes a master of wine. And we're looking forward to having you here at 5-star. And thank you again for your contribution to the book, which was very important. It was really a community project, and it was very, very fun for me to sort of pull everyone's thoughts and words together and to see everybody's enthusiasm for the book. So I'm really grateful and glad that you're enjoying the book and sticking your sticky notes on it. I can't wait to see your beat up coffee. So thank you so much, and safe travels, and we will see you in Verona soon.
Well, thank you so much, Cynthia.
Thank you for listening, and remember to tune in next Wednesday when I'll be chatting with another fascinating guest. Italian Wine Podcast is among the leading wine podcasts in the world, and the only one with a daily show. Tune in every day and discover all our different shows. You can find us at ItalianWinePodcast.com, SoundCloud, Spotify, Himalaya, or wherever you get your pods.